7, Japanese time 10:30, and we are going to talk business. This is our first episode, the Nupur Tewari Show, Let's Talk Business, presented by Heal Tokyo and Heal India. We'll be talking only business. We'll be promoting your product. We'll be enlightened by our experts, and we'll be telling your startup stories as well. This is our first episode. We are starting our first episode with none other than His Excellency Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma. Definitely, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma is our Honorable Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma. With business applause, let's welcome him.
Thank you, Nupurji, for this lovely initiative, and I'm sure that both Indian and Japanese business people will be able to understand the facilitation which they can get from various agencies, including the Indian Embassy in Japan.
We are very excited to know how we can make business relation between India and Japan smoother, how Indian can do trade in Japan more.
The first thing is extremely important, and that is that if there is an Indian trader, how does he do trade with Japan? Or how does she do trade with Japan? Now, in order to understand that, the first thing is to understand the Japanese market. So first thing to consider is whether there is a market in Japan for the kind of products that you want to trade in, particularly exports from India in this particular case. And once you are convinced that yes, there is a market in Japan to launch the trade for the import of that item into Japan. So there are two kinds of standards in Japan. One is known as GIS, Agricultural Standards, GIS. And both of these are well publicized standards on various websites. One would need to obtain the certification for that. So if you're exporting from India, you can take the help of India-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, and that provides for issuance of certification of the product by some of the Indian agencies. You can look at that list of agencies, and then you can utilize their facilitation for your products to come to Japan. When you are exporting to Japan, please remember that your first interaction with Japan or Japanese business ecosystem, that the predictability and trust, these are the two most important factors for any Japanese to do business with a foreigner or a foreign country. Both these things will be applicable to you as well. So when you try to export it, try to understand the Japanese business culture on logistics, on timeliness, on product is important. Second point is, what if you want to import from Japan? Now that's another factor, which is again straightforward. Once you have already got interested in a particular product from Japan, you can start looking at it from the point of view of Indian standards requirements, whether the product will fit into the Indian standards requirement, whether it is an agricultural product or industrial product or machinery or capital product, anything of that kind. And if it fits in, whether it fits into the SEPA, which is the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between India and Japan, and they're largely on a product which is imported from Japan, or there is a product in the Indian market which needs processing before it is finalized and sold in the Indian market or a market outside India. So in both the cases, you will need to understand once again the Japanese culture, the Japanese way of doing business, in order to make you more suitable for those Japanese companies.
Thank you so much for your wonderful answer. And the same way, we'd like to know that reverse Japanese businessmen, especially a bit smaller scale, they want to sell their product or want to have their own business in India, how they can be benefited, how they can start.
Now, let me take this question in the reverse direction. So, if there is a Japanese businessman who wants to export to India, how should he go about it? Now, in your case, first of all, you'll have to see if there is a market which exists for your kind of product. Now, when I say market, it is not only the requirement of the units, but it is also the cost effectiveness of your product in the Indian market. Indian market is highly cost sensitive, and therefore your pricing has to be right. India is a huge market with 1.4 billion population, and therefore when a Japanese businessman approaches Indian market, our general advice is that you look at a small segment of the market rather than looking at at India as entire India as one market. That will help you, because if you want to reach out to entire India in the first go, it will be extremely difficult for you to initiate that. But if you are looking at a small portion of population, say about 10 to 12 million of people in a particular area in India, it will become more comfortable for you. It will become easier for you, because if you are truly choosing one geographical region, then culturally that will be homogeneous, linguistically that will be homogeneous, and therefore doing business with that particular geographical region or area will be much easier. If you are importing from India, once again, what I told about exporting from India remains valid for you. From India, venture, once again, you can utilize the same channel as I told to the Indian businessmen to utilize. But most important point for the Japanese business people is that India and Japan are two different cultures, and therefore you should be able to appreciate the culture you are getting immersed in. It's very difficult business plans on the basis of differences in cultural practices, both social cultural practices as well as business cultural practices. So business cultures are different things, different kinds in two countries.
And definitely, we all like to know how embassy can help on this.
So once that is done, how does embassy play a role in this? When I say embassy, I'm talking about the Indian embassy in Tokyo. The Japanese embassy in New Delhi can say its own facilitation role. So first thing to understand is that JETRO, which is Japan's leading external trade organization, has got multiple offices in India. And the Indian businessman who desires to import, export from Japan, or you can approach in order to understand again the business culture. Once you have contacted JETRO, I'm sure JETRO will come back with their own advice to you as to how to go about it. On the investment front, and again the business culture. Once you have contacted JETRO, I'm sure JETRO will come back with their own advice to you as to how to go about it. On the investment front, there are various other organizations and Japanese and Indian banks in each, setting up of an office. So the embassy, you can find all the relevant email addresses and telephone numbers on our website. So you can search for Embassy of India in Tokyo. You can go on the website and look at various email addresses and the telephone numbers given therein, including for the economic and commercial work. You can send in your initial query. Mind you, the embassy will always remain as the initial interface, and it can do a bit of hand-holding, but later on the hand-holding will have to be done by your partner in India, or for Indian businessmen, your partner in Japan. For those who are looking at investing in India, Invest India is a good frontier, but again, embassy will be able to advise you when you send in your queries to the Embassy of India in Tokyo. And then we try to provide you with if you are looking for a list of companies you should contact in India, we should be able to provide you a list of suggested companies who have shown their interest in doing trade with Japan, and therefore you should be able to contact them, and it will be possible to go ahead because they have already shown their interest in Japan. The language of business communication with the Indian companies would remain English, and therefore it will be useful if the communications are made in English to the Indian business people. And for the Indian business people, of course, the English will be the language of communication. But those Indian businesses who would know and understand Japanese, it may serve them well to send the communication using Japanese language. So Indian Embassy will be able to provide you advice, will be able to provide you suggestions on the likely business partners in India, and for the Indian businessmen, the likely Indian partners in Japan, which can also be done through JETRO, which can also be done, I'm sure, through the Embassy of Japan in New Delhi. And thereafter, if you have any cultural issues to talk about, cultural here I mean business culture related issues, or if you're not getting a response, or you have landed yourself in a situation which you feel it's very difficult to come out from, we'll be able to advise you and do a bit of hand-holding for you to facilitate further in your endeavor to do business with India. So largely I'll say these issues would be important when you are considering to do business with India, which is a different culture altogether, both social and business. Try to understand the business culture. You can find many articles in various trustworthy websites and newspapers and magazines and books. Try to understand that, and as Embassy of India in Tokyo, we are always there to help you out in that. We also have a Consulate General in Osaka who would do the similar facilitation for you to understand the Indian regulatory framework, for you to contact their possible Indian business partners, for you to finally do trade or investment with India. Ms. Nupur Tewari has started this program with a very clear objective in mind, and I sincerely hope that she succeeds in this, which is to bridge the communication gap. At the moment, the information available are very sketchy, and there are not many private sector players who are able to give you appropriate information and do the complete hand-holding for you. But we at the Embassy are committed to this, and we shall try to assist you as much as we can in reaching out to your endeavor. There would be sectoral episodes of this program also coming in the future that will allow you to pick and choose your own sector of business and then understand various aspects of regulation or standards or certification, the areas of India which are more appropriate for that kind of product, the government procurement, the digital India, the startup India, the skill India. So there are many things which could be discussed in those episodes. But at the moment, I would wish Ms. Nupur Tewari all the best for taking this initiative, and I hope that all of you are benefited through this initiative. Thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu. Namaskar and dhanyavad.
So everyone, all the business people out there, let's talk business. Yes, every week we'll be talking business. On Friday, Indian time, 7, Japanese time, 10. See Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma and I different section-wise question answer, and he's very kind. He will be answering all the questions. So everyone, here we are starting, and it will be non-stop. We'll be talking only business. Stay tuned. I'll see you next Friday, same time, Indian time 7, Japanese time 10:30 p.m. every Fridays. See you soon.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss